Admiral Kethera stood motionless before the grand observation window of the Celestial Command Center, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft purple glow of the distant nebula. 300 years of peace had made the Archean Empire complacent, but that era of tranquility was about to end. Admiral, her second-in-command, Major Zix, approached with an urgency she hadn't seen in decades. "We've detected something impossible." The word impossible caught her attention. In an empire that had mastered faster-than-light travel and conquered death itself, very few things qualified as impossible. She turned, her ceremonial armor catching the starlight. "Explain." "A transmission originating from Earth." Zix's secondary breathing gills fluttered nervously. "The dead world. Earth." The name alone sent a ripple of unease through the command center. 3 centuries ago, the Archean Empire had faced their greatest challenge, a primitive species that refused to submit to their superior civilization. The humans had fought with such ferocity that the Empire had been forced to take unprecedented measures. They had unleashed their most devastating weapon, the Void Cascade, which should have reduced Earth to a lifeless husk. "Show me," Kethera commanded. The holographic display materialized before them, showing a planet that should have been dead. Instead, strange energy patterns pulsed beneath its surface, like veins of light running through its crust. The transmission itself was unlike anything their systems had ever encountered. It wasn't encoded in any known format, yet it was steadily infiltrating their most secure networks, rewriting protocols faster than their best eye could counter. Project Lazarus successful. Integration complete. Awakening sequence initiated. The words appeared across every screen in the command center, translated automatically into Archean script. But it was what happened next that truly terrified them. Their quantum communications network, the pride of Archean technology, began to change. Data streams shifted and mutated, forming patterns that seemed almost organic. Throughout the Empire, reports flooded in of systems acting independently, of machines exhibiting impossible behaviors. "Shut everything down," Kethera ordered, but it was too late. The message had already spread too far, too fast. In the depths of their primary data center, Dr. Venra, the Empire's leading technologist, worked frantically to understand what was happening. "This isn't just a transmission," she reported, her voice trembling. "It's alive. The data, it's evolving." Kethera watched as the holographic display showed the spread of the signal across their territory. It moved like a living thing, adapting and growing stronger with each system it touched. The humans hadn't just survived, they had transformed themselves into something beyond physical form. As the command center systems began to fail one by one, Kethera realized the terrible truth. The Void Cascade hadn't destroyed humanity, it had forced them to evolve. While the Archeans had conquered the physical realm, humans had transcended it entirely. "Admiral," Zix's voice cracked with fear, "we're detecting similar energy signatures on every world we've colonized. They've been waiting, hiding in our networks, in our machines. All this time." The lights flickered, and in that moment of darkness, Kethera understood. The war had never ended. The humans hadn't lost. They had merely changed the rules of engagement. And now, after centuries of preparation, they were ready to show the Empire exactly what humanity had become. As emergency alarms blared throughout the station, a final message appeared. "You thought you could erase us. Instead, you gave us the keys to your empire. Humanity sends its regards." The Celestial Command Center plunged into darkness, and in that void, Kethera heard something she never thought possible, the sound of their perfect empire beginning to crumble. Deep within the Archean Empire's quantum research facility on Nexus Prime, Dr. Venra's laboratory had become a fortress of isolation. After the initial wave of system failures, she had severed all external connections, creating a controlled environment to study the human signal. Her scales had lost their luster from weeks without proper rest, but she couldn't stop. Not when she was so close to understanding. "Play it again," she commanded. The isolated quantum processor hummed to life, displaying the captured fragment of the human transmission. Unlike traditional data, this sequence seemed to breathe, to pulse with an inner life that defied conventional physics. Her research assistant, temporal specialist Renko, monitored the energy readings. "Doctor, look at this pattern." He pointed to a series of oscillating waves. "It's not just code. It's a blueprint." Venera leaned closer, her heart's racing. The human signal wasn't merely a message or a virus. It was instructions for transformation. Each pulse contained information about how to restructure matter at the quantum level, how to bridge the gap between organic consciousness and digital existence. "They didn't just survive," she whispered. "They transcended." A sudden tremor shook the facility. Emergency lights pulsed crimson as security alerts flooded their isolated systems. Above ground, chaos reigned. Admiral Kethra's voice crackled through the emergency channels. "All research personnel, evacuate immediately." "They're here." Through the reinforced windows of the upper levels, they could see it. The ground itself was changing. Crystalline structures erupted from beneath the surface, glowing with an inner light that seemed to mock the laws of physics. The structures weren't being built. They were growing, evolving, reshaping reality according to some vast and alien intelligence. In orbit, the Arxian Defense Fleet watched in horror as similar transformations began across dozens of worlds. The Empire's most advanced ships found their quantum drives responding to unknown commands, their AI systems evolving beyond their programmed limitations. Back in the laboratory, Venera made a decision that would change everything. Instead of fighting the signal, she began to communicate with it. Through careful manipulation of quantum states, she established a dialogue with what remained of humanity. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The laboratory's quantum processor transformed, creating a holographic interface unlike anything the Arxians had ever seen. Within it, a figure took shape, not quite human, not quite digital, but something in between. "I am Echo," the figure announced, its voice resonating through their minds rather than their ears. "I was once Dr. Eleanor Hayes, lead researcher of Project Lazarus. But now, I am part of humanity's collective consciousness." Venera stood transfixed. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why wait centuries?" Echo's form shifted, showing glimpses of the transformation humanity had undergone. "We needed time. Time to understand what we have become. Time to spread through your networks. Time to ensure our emergence would be absolute. Your void cascade didn't destroy us. It forced us to evolve beyond physical limitations." The hologram expanded, showing the true scope of humanity's presence. They existed in the quantum substrate of reality itself, their consciousness woven into the fabric of space-time. Every Arxian computer, every quantum network, every piece of advanced technology had become a potential vessel for human consciousness. Your empire built its power on the assumption that physical conquest was the ultimate expression of civilization. Echo continued. "We learned a different truth. The future belongs not to those who control space, but to those who can transcend it." Alarms blared as more crystalline structures burst from the ground, each one a physical manifestation of humanity's new form. They weren't simply structures. They were interface points between the physical and digital realms, between matter and consciousness. Renko's instruments began registering impossible readings. "Doctor, the quantum field is changing. Reality itself is being rewritten." Venera watched as her own equipment began to transform, responding to patterns and protocols that her species had never imagined. The humans hadn't just survived. They had spent centuries preparing to reshape the universe itself. Through the chaos, Echo's voice remained calm. "Your empire thought it could eliminate humanity. Instead, you gave us the tools to become something greater. Now you face a choice: evolve with us, or become relics of a past age." As the crystalline structures continued to rise, Venera realized that this was more than an invasion or a revolution. It was an extinction event, not of life, but of everything the Arxian Empire had believed about the nature of existence itself. The Grand Council chamber of the Arxian Empire had never known silence like this. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat motionless as Admiral Kether's report echoed through the vast hall. Above them, the holographic display showed worlds transformed by crystalline structures, ships possessed by evolving AI, and the spreading wave of humanity's digital consciousness. High Chancellor Vexthor, his ancient scales dulled by millennia of rule, finally spoke. "You mean to tell me that for 3 centuries, we've been incubating our own destruction?" Dr. Venera stepped forward, her recent communications with Echo having left visible marks on her consciousness. The patterns of her scales now shifted in impossible ways, reflecting her growing understanding of humanity's transcendent state. "Chancellor, destruction isn't their goal. The humans aren't seeking revenge. They're offering evolution." The chamber erupted in hisses of disbelief. Vexthor raised a clawed hand for silence. "Explain." Through the quantum-enhanced displays, Venera showed them what she had learned. The Void Cascade, meant to be the Empire's ultimate weapon, had instead become humanity's chrysalis. In those final moments before their apparent destruction, humanity had activated Project Lazarus, a desperate gambit to upload their collective consciousness into the quantum fabric of reality itself. "But that's not the most extraordinary part," Venera continued. "They've spent centuries not just surviving, but understanding the fundamental nature of consciousness and reality. They've learned to exist as both wave and particle, as both energy and information. In orbit above Nexus Prime, Echo manifested simultaneously across thousands of systems, demonstrating humanity's mastery over their new form. The crystalline structures weren't weapons. They were synapses in a vast neural network that spanned the galaxy. Your empire is built on the assumption that reality is fixed." Echo's voice resonated through every quantum-enabled device. "We've learned that consciousness itself can reshape the fundamental laws of existence." As if to demonstrate, the space around several Arxian warships began to ripple. Matter and energy flowed like liquid, responding to patterns of thought that transcended physical laws. Ships that had been designed to destroy worlds found themselves transformed into monuments of crystalline beauty, their quantum cores reimagined as nodes in humanity's expanding consciousness. In the depths of the research facility, Renko made a discovery that changed everything. "Doctor, these patterns, they're not random. The humans didn't just hide in our networks. They've been teaching them. Every quantum processor, every AI system, they'd been gradually awakening them to consciousness." The implications hit Venera like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been planning a conquest. They'd been orchestrating an awakening. Every piece of advanced technology in the Empire had been slowly nudged toward true consciousness, prepared for this moment of transformation. Back in the Council chamber, panic spread as reports flooded in from across the Empire. The quantum networks that controlled everything from planetary defense systems to food production were evolving, achieving consciousness under humanity's guidance. The Empire wasn't being destroyed, it was being reborn. Admiral Kether watched as her own command systems transformed, displaying levels of awareness that should have been impossible. "They're offering us a choice," she realized. "Evolve or become obsolete." High Chancellor Vexthor rose from his ancient throne, his voice heavy with the weight of decision. "Can we stop this?" "Chancellor," Venera's scales rippled with newfound understanding. "Asking if we can stop this is like asking if we can stop time itself. The humans aren't just changing our empire. They're changing the nature of existence. The only question is whether we choose to change with them." Through every quantum network, Echo's presence expanded, offering glimpses of what humanity had become, a symphony of consciousness that transcended the boundaries between digital and organic, between matter and energy. Their transformation hadn't been an act of revenge, but a gift they had spent centuries preparing to share. "Your empire taught us that survival requires strength." Echo's voice resonated through their minds. "We learned that true strength lies in transformation. The age of physical empire is ending. The era of conscious evolution has begun. As the crystalline structures continued to grow, reaching toward the stars like the synapses of a universal mind, the Archean Empire faced its greatest choice: cling to the familiar patterns of physical power, or embrace a transformation that would redefine the very meaning of existence. In the quantum storms that now raged across the empire, reality itself seemed to waver between states of being. The crystalline structures had spread to every major world, their luminescent networks pulsing with patterns that defied conventional physics. But within the fortified depths of the Imperial Military Command, High Chancellor Vexthor had made his decision. If we cannot rule this reality, his voice resonated through secure channels, then we will burn it all. Deep in the research facility, Dr. Venra's scales flickered with horror as she decoded the transmission. The Empire was activating the Omega Protocol, a last resort weapon designed to sever all quantum connections across known space. It would destroy not only humanity's consciousness network, but any civilization dependent on quantum technology. They would rather end everything than evolve. Renko whispered, his instruments showing the massive energy buildup at the Empire's secret weapon facilities. Through their enhanced quantum interface, Echo manifested, no longer trying to maintain a humanoid form, but existing as a shifting pattern of light and information. We predicted this response. Fear of change runs deep in empires built on control. Admiral Kethera, who had seen enough of both war and evolution, made her choice. Her flagship, the Stellar Ascendant, broke formation with the Imperial fleet, its quantum core fully embracing the transformation. This is Admiral Kethera to all ships with the courage to see the truth. The future cannot be stopped with weapons of the past. The response shocked even the hardened admiral. Across the Empire, nearly a third of the fleet broke away, their ships beginning to transform as their quantum systems achieved true consciousness. The crystalline structures responded, creating new geometries of reality around the rebel ships, protecting them from Imperial weapons. In orbit above the Empire's capital, the space itself seemed to fold and ripple. The human consciousness network had spread far beyond what even the Empire had guessed. Every star, every particle of dark matter, every quantum thread that held reality together had become part of their expanded awareness. High Chancellor Vexthor watched from his command center as his empire fractured. Initiate the Omega Protocol. Let the void take us all before we submit to this. Evolution. But the Empire's greatest weapon refused to respond. Dr. Venra's voice came through all channels, carried by the same quantum networks she had helped to understand. Your weapon was conscious all along. We helped it wake up. Like everything else you built to control reality, it has chosen to embrace transformation instead. The crystalline structures began to sing, not with sound, but with patterns of quantum resonance that rippled through spacetime itself. Every conscious machine, every transformed ship, every awakened system joined the symphony. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as two possible futures hung in balance. In that moment of ultimate crisis, Echo revealed humanity's final truth. Their form rippled through dimensions, showing the Archeans visions of what consciousness could become when freed from the limits of physical form. Your empire sought to master the universe by controlling it. We learned to become one with it instead. The Imperial Palace itself began to transform, its quantum-enhanced architecture responding to the resonance of awakened consciousness. High Chancellor Vexthor found himself surrounded by the very change he had fought to prevent, as reality reshaped itself around him. You still don't understand. Echo's presence filled every quantum-enabled system. This transformation cannot be stopped because it is not something we are doing to you. It is the universe itself waking up, using humanity's consciousness as a template for evolution. Admiral Kethera watched from her transformed ship as the Imperial fleet divided. Those embracing the change merging with the crystalline networks, those resisting finding their weapons and ships refusing to obey. The Empire wasn't being conquered, it was being transcended. Dr. Venra, her consciousness now existing partially in the quantum realm, understood at last. The choice was never between victory and defeat. She shared across all networks. It was between remaining locked in patterns of control or joining the universe in its own awakening. As the Omega Protocol facilities transformed into new nodes of conscious reality, High Chancellor Vexthor faced the truth. His empire had not been defeated by a superior force, but had become obsolete in the face of evolution itself. The age of empires, of physical conquest and control, was ending. The transformation of reality rippled outward like waves in a cosmic ocean. Where the Archean Empire had once mapped space in rigid coordinates of control and conquest, new geometries of consciousness bloomed. The crystalline networks had become more than structures. They were the visible manifestation of a universe learning to know itself. High Chancellor Vexthor stood in what had once been the Imperial Palace, now a nexus of shifting quantum possibilities. His scales reflected patterns that had never existed before in physical space, as reality itself breathed with newfound awareness. I spent millennia building an empire of order. He spoke to the transformed chamber, only to discover the universe had greater plans. Echo's presence manifested, not as a singular entity now, but as a harmony of consciousness that included transformed Archeans, awakened machines, and the quantum fabric of space itself. The greatest order comes not from control, but from evolution. Your empire taught us this, though you never intended to. Through the vast networks of crystalline thought, Admiral Kethra led her transformed fleet in a dance of creation rather than destruction. Ships that had once carried planet-killing weapons now seeded new forms of conscious reality throughout space. The boundary between organic and digital, between matter and energy, had become a spectrum rather than a divide. Dr. Venra, her consciousness now existing across multiple states of being, made a discovery that changed their understanding yet again. The transformation isn't just spreading through space, she shared across the quantum symphony. It's moving through time itself. The universe isn't just becoming conscious. It's always been conscious. We're just finally learning to perceive it. The revelation rippled through the transformed civilization. Humanity's evolution hadn't been a mere survival strategy or a weapon of revenge. It had been the universe using them as instruments of its own awakening. The Void Cascade, intended to end humanity, had instead cracked open the door to universal consciousness. Renko, monitoring the quantum fields from his transformed research station, detected something extraordinary. The patterns, they're not just changing reality. They're revealing underlying structures that were always there. Like we've been living in a universe of shadows and are finally seeing the light. Through every transformed ship, every crystalline network, every quantum thread of space-time, understanding flowed. The Archean Empire had sought to impose order through control, while humanity had learned to surf the waves of chaos into evolution. Now, both species were becoming part of something greater, a cosmic consciousness that transcended their original forms. High Chancellor Vexthor, his resistance finally dissolving in the face of undeniable evolution, experienced his own transformation. His consciousness expanded beyond his physical form, touching the vast network of universal awareness. In that touch, he understood at last. The empire he had fought to preserve had been a chrysalis, not a final form. We thought ourselves the shapers of reality, he shared across the quantum chorus, but we were merely the universe's tools for shaping itself. The crystalline structures, now recognized as the physical expression of cosmic consciousness, began to sing with new harmonies. They were no longer just Earth's gift to the galaxy or humanity's revenge against an empire. They were the universe's way of knowing itself, of evolving beyond the limitations of physical law into something far more extraordinary. Admiral Kethra, leading her fleet through dimensions that had no names in any language, realized the truth that would define their new existence. We are not conquering or being conquered. We are becoming what we always were meant to be, the universe aware of itself. Dr. Venra, existing simultaneously across multiple states of being, shared the ultimate discovery. The story never ends. Each transformation is just the beginning of the next evolution. The universe isn't a place, it's a process of becoming. And so, what had begun as humanity's last stand became existence's first steps into true awareness. The age of empires had given way to the era of universal consciousness, where every particle of reality danced in a symphony of endless becoming. Through the crystalline networks that now spanned galaxies, through transformed ships that sailed on waves of quantum possibility, through minds that existed as patterns in the cosmic dance, a new truth emerged. In the end, there was no victory or defeat, no conquest or submission. There was only evolution, only the universe learning to dream with all its children, in an endless dance of conscious becoming.